social media experts are so good, why are they selling 10,000 copies of their book? And at the end of, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what this is. We're not doing it to be kumbaya, let's all hold hands and drink tea. We're here for, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things social media is doing, you know, in society and charity and good cause and all that, and that's fine. This is under the umbrella, at least what I talk about, which is business, and I think that there's a mucky space, and I think I said that much more, not to razz people or to say I'm good. I said it because I'm hoping that brand managers and business people actually vet the people they're hiring. They're hiring, you know, I've had people say to me, Gary, great thing, I hired this kid out of college, he's going to do our Facebook and Twitter. I'm like, let me tell you something. That 22-year-old dude you just hired, the last 3 years, what he did on Facebook was look at girls' bikini pictures. He's not thinking about business. So, you know, I wanted to get that debate going. You know, you asked me that question, you knowing about that, that's what's healthy. It just starts the debate, right? I thought that was important.
Yeah, these social media consultants and experts 10 years ago were search experts. Same crowd.
They were just selling real estate 15 minutes ago.
I think
they
were recruiting before that. I think if your view is, if you're, in my experience, people that sell themselves as social media experts are taking a pretty myopic view of a complete business, right?
Agreed.
And I think that's where more of the problems come into play. When your social media expert isn't thinking about your larger media spend or your merchants or the whole business.
So if it's true that these social media experts are sort of a dime a dozen, or maybe they're not experts at all, how do you differentiate yourself and really sell yourself in a business that's so, or a world that's so
I think you prove something. You know, this is my big thing that all my designer friends hate me because I always talk about spec work, you know, I think if you're in business, you're doing spec work a lot, especially when you have nothing else to go on, right? I think one of the things that really matter, you know, we took the Jets and the NHL at nothing compared to what my time was worth because I knew that in their industry, selling tickets was a clear-cut ROI, right? It wasn't like causing buzz or building a brand. They're in the ticket selling business. And I liked that challenge because I knew if I could figure that out and prove it, that would mean something. I think the best way anybody can differentiate themselves in a world that looks like that is to go and do some work that actually means something, that accomplishes the goal that the client wants. And clients want different things, right? Like PepsiCo is a digital leader. So us doing biz dev deals with Instagram before anybody knows what Instagram is, that mattered to them. They were happy with us for stuff like that. But then you've got clients like the Jets who only want to sell tickets. They're tunnel visioned. You know, do we sell tickets? No, just be patient. We will. You know. So it really just depends on that. But to me, the best way to differentiate is to execute. I mean, he executed. That's why Rackspace bought it. That's how he differentiated. You know, I think differentiating execution is a very clear differentiator to me.
You kind of brought up a second point, which is you said, you know, do they sell tickets? You know, no, be patient. You know, so what do you do in that time period where social media doesn't turn things around overnight? What do you do during that period when you haven't?
You properly explain to people up front. I think you brought up a great point. We talk about, hey, can you make your traditional media work better for you? You know, just putting a Facebook. How do you like this thing, you guys? You've been seeing all the commercials, and they put the Facebook and Twitter logo. I walk into some of my clients, I'm like, you understand that's like putting a telephone logo, right? I mean, nobody knows what your URL. I mean, it's like there's so much confusion right now in the market because it's always early. We talk about practical things. You know, crawl before you run. We have a pharma company that is like, you know, can't do anything, but we talk about things like, you know, can we make what you're spending $1 trillion on TV work better for you? You know, can we buy your ads better? I mean, we had a client who was paying $7 an ad for Facebook acquisition because a bigger agency was probably making some ungodly markup on it, and we came in and we brought that down to 80 cents. That mattered to them. When you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and you go from $7 to 80 cents, in a world where they decided, even though we told them we don't agree, that they needed a follow count because perception is reality and that's what the boss is above. I think you always, the people that are most successful, well, I love this guy because he will pivot in 3 seconds if he has to, and I think everybody has some success in that. You have to reverse engineer from what the customer wants. I don't walk in with any thesis. I sit down and say, what do you want? We want 1 million Twitter followers. Why? Well, because our competitor does. I'm like, would you rather have 80,000 that actually converted? You know, and so you start having the smart conversations. And you know what's funny? And this is what I've learned about corporate more so than being an entrepreneur. Sometimes the answer is like, no, we need 1 million. Because our chairman needs it, and we know we need to do this to then let us do the real shit. And at first I was kind of like, it's kind of hard, but like, listen, they're playing a different game. And they're playing a very different game than I did because my first marketing budget was $187. My dad said, you have $187 to market Shoppers Discount Liquors. I said, keep it, I'll ask next year. So they're playing a different game. I think you have to understand what the customer wants, and I think if you're an individual and you're trying to prove yourself, do it pro bono if they're not willing to fire you, because if you can make something happen in this world right now or any world, that matters.
I know last week in Atlanta at the Silver Pop Conference, you talked about just like patience and kindness as like two of the key things you're looking for in your people.
In the people I hire.
And people you hire
Yeah.
for social media. Can you expand
Kindness
on
is an interesting one. Oh, and actually creativity. Do you know we're starting to interview comedians for So my business model of VaynerMedia is that I believe the reason Google wanted to buy Groupon wasn't the tech and it wasn't the email list. It was the human equity, right? It was the tens of thousands of salespeople that have relationships with the Chinese food store and the liquor store and the florist. I think there's a gross misunderstanding, of how much equity there will be in the people as we go forward. As we go more, I said something, I said it there, I think, right? As we go more Jetsons, I think the real action is in the Flintstones, right? I think it's going old school. And so I'm trying to build a business that has 4,000 employees. One, I like people, so a lot of my tech friends hate the idea of having a company that has human beings, right? Like all my tech friends. I, on the other hand, am all about it. I want to walk into like warehouses and like high five everybody down the aisle for 3 hours, right? Like I like people, and I think there's a lot of opportunity in it. And I think if you can really capture the voice of a brand and you really understand, so we're working on process. Going into a company and spending weeks and truly understanding real business, like the relationships with Walmart and Costco, like real shit. Then coming back and understanding how to be nimble enough to not upset the lawyers, to keep the tone of the voice, to be quick, to be human. And we're trying a lot of interesting stuff. We're really going to try to map the kind of personalities that we think are most successful in this space. And early results are the women are much better than the men, so that's been one thing that we've really felt, that makes a lot of sense to me though, because I think it is more of a nurturing kind of thing. It's been interesting. It's been very, very interesting.
It's interesting you talk about creative, because I actually believe that, just from a high level, not that this would be the thing that would differentiate every social media expert, but I really do feel like there's a huge creative gap in social media, and I think it's a couple things. One of them is that people who have been traditionally trained as creatives, the people who want to shoot the $400,000 viral video or think that it costs that much to shoot a good one, that's your creative talent pool right now. And I was actually having an interesting conversation with someone about, a lot of journalism departments are shutting down in a lot of colleges. They're getting rid of them. There's no newspaper industry anymore. But I also don't think that there's any sort of background that necessarily qualifies you to do creative stuff within social media. So I do feel like there's a big gap there, an opportunity.
You gonna say something, Mike?
I don't have to.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just the fact that someone thinks you can sit in a room and create a viral video is the problem. You can't just sit in a room and define a viral video. Most viral videos go viral by accident. They go viral because a number of factors come together that were not predicted in advance, and timing and pop culture and all kinds of different reasons. And that's why the one that you don't expect to go viral is always the one that goes viral. So the fact that people are getting in some room in Madison Avenue and trying to construct a viral video is nuts. It's impossible.
Scary.
I actually have sat on a panel with a company called BuzzFeed in New York. There's a guy named Jonah Peretti. Did they?
Yeah, I saw that yesterday, I think, right?
Kidding me? Okay. Yeah, so Jonah Peretti's a mathematician and founder, CEO, is a very smart guy. Has actually done research on this. He actually quantified, very smart, quantified, the variables that go into, but after the fact, right? After a video went viral, he tries to reverse engineer how it happened. And it's always a bunch of different reasons. And none of them are predictable in advance.
does quantity help? I mean, is that the answer? As opposed to trying to make one, let's make 100?
No, because there's a lot of people who made one and it went.
Yeah.
You know? And more importantly, why? Like, that's what I want to know. Okay, you got 11 million people in one day to watch the video. You know, like,
Now
you know how many of the best commercials of all time I could run off right now and ask you what the brand was and you've got no shot? You've got no shot to tell me. I mean, there's ads right now running that I'm like, oh yeah, that was funny. And I'm like, the Miller Lite thing. And everybody's like, no, that's the Bud Light thing. And then it ends up being like the Pepsi thing. Like, you know, like, I think those are the things we get caught in. We get caught in the minutia of the tactics and we don't understand it at a higher level. Which is why I love the one-on-one marketing stuff, because I truly believe that stuff brands in a much bigger emotion. It's a lot easier to remember, you know, in some ways than something that you just watched up for 43 seconds on YouTube. Though, I don't want it to go the wrong way. I love the thought of it, and I think there's a lot of value in it, and storytelling and creative. I love creative. I love it. I love it. I think there is a value, and I think there are people that are very good at it, and it's an important part of the process. I fancy myself in that. I love it. I just think that you always have to ultimately balance the two forces of, you know, conversion and, you know, storytelling and things of that nature.
Cool. I wanted to bring it to Corey. I had a question for you. You're taking a pause in college from the University of Illinois. Your company you're starting a company in San Francisco. But can you tell us a little bit about, like, what are the students at U of I talking about, right? Like, what is it that 17, 18, 19-year-olds, I mean, is there anything different than what we're talking about? Or can you enlighten us on any of that? You know, when they're on their phones, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so they're not talking about this stuff for sure. They use Twitter to be funny. They don't really use Twitter, and they use Facebook to do what Gary was saying earlier, to look at the opposite sex's photos. And one thing that I notice a lot is no matter where you are, no matter what campus you're on, if you people watch, everyone is on their cell phone.
Sure.
At all times. Computers are going dead. So that's one of the things that I've noticed.
So if they're not on Facebook, they're not on Twitter, what are they on?
Well, they're on Facebook, but they're on Facebook on their iPhone.
They live on
Yeah.
Facebook. Live. I mean, the bigger interesting question I think is, why are so many high school kids living on Tumblr, and does that stop the deal flow to Facebook? Could that ever happen? Could Tumblr win high school as they're starting to? Would it ever stop? Do you have a younger brother or sister?
No.
No.
But I don't know anyone in high school that's on Tumblr.
So, like, I know, like, for example, like, every 15, 16-year-old, like, that I know, which is quite a bit, because I'm weird like that, in New York, New Jersey, and then if you look at other parts, like, the explosion of Tumblr in
Yeah,
the
my brother and
last...
sister are younger, they're on it.
What's that they are?
Yeah.
It's like...
What's the appeal to that demographic for Tumblr? What is that? Because it's blogging and pictures.
So the way I view Tumblr is in between Twitter and WordPress, right?
Right.
Where everybody missed the boat on Tumblr, I thought, in our space, the tech space, is that they all compared it to WordPress when it was a media consumption tool. The dashboard was something nobody ever talks about. Like, and I was always like, how don't people understand that this is not like WordPress? I understand it doesn't have all the WordPress plugins, but people sit on their Tumblr dashboard and heart and reblog things all day long. It's a content aggregation ecosystem. And what I think is fascinating, right, is that the numbers, because I'm familiar with a lot of stuff that's going on with Tumblr, and just the real life stuff, because I came to Tumblr like, what's going on with you guys? They're like, we're exploding. And I'm like, yeah, all of a sudden all these 15, 16-year-olds are all, like, I'm seeing status updates like, you know, living on Tumblr, if you close on my Facebook and things of that nature. And I find it fascinating as somebody in the scene, 19, he's like, I don't know, that it's amazing that like 19, 22, 25, it's no longer like, you know, 30 and 18, right? It's like even like a year or two, because everything's so fast.
Right.
You know, so I think the things are being redefined. It's no longer like 21 to 25 in a world that's a little
21 to
slower.
23.
Or 21 to
21 to
21.
22.
Right? So I think that's fascinating. I mean, Tumblr's growing by 250 million page views a week growth. I mean, so you're talking, and I think what they like about it